Here we go. Live, live, live. Hey everyone, I'm going to wait a few minutes until people get on and get a couple people happening on this beautiful, beautiful Tuesday. It's 8/8, y'all. What are you doing for this energy of the full moon that's still present? You've also got the Lionsgate opening that's happening. So I'm just going to wait and allow a couple people to tune in and to log on. And as you guys join me, if you're present with me, just leave a little note so I know that you're there. Send me some hearts, send me some likes, maybe put a comment. Let me know you're joining. I just see Alexander joined. Welcome, Alexander. So for those of you, hi Jerry, welcome. For those of you that know me, I'm Josephina Bashout. For those of you that don't know me, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am the Pussy Priestess, also known as Josephina Bashout, which is perfect for the conversation that we're having today around judgment. So what I want to talk about as people are starting to log on and join us today on this call and on this Facebook Live, I just wanted to share because I was inspired today. I was inspired by a podcast that I was on yesterday by a good friend of mine, Adam Rowe. If you haven't checked out his podcast, please go check it out. It's called The Deep Dive. It's on iTunes. And we had a phenomenal podcast interview, which I'll release out to all of you once I have the invite and have the link. And we got into this really beautiful conversation, and what kept coming up in the conversation with him and with myself has to do around my title as a Pussy Priestess, as the Pussy Priestess, and how that can be super triggering for people. How just the name alone, pussy, the word alone, pussy, can bring up so much inside of us. And even some of you that are watching today even may not like that word. It may not resonate with you. You may contract. You may notice yourself wondering, why am I even saying the word? What does this have anything to do with it? You know, and you may not feel great about the word. And so my invitation with this video is seeing if we can move past judgment and into love. So I want to start on the most basic level, which is I'm going to talk about these glasses right here. These glasses right here. So growing up, I had so much judgment about wearing glasses and what that means about myself. Wearing glasses, the most simplest of little things, right, can shift and alter my experience in the world. I had so much judgment about who I am in the world and how people will then judge me. I was judging myself, judging others, judging me. So I was in this constant loop and cycle around judgment. And what I would make it mean from the judgment was that I'm not sexy, that I'm not as pretty with my glasses on, that I'm not as smart or attractive, or big one was I'm not as powerful. I'm not seen as powerful when I would wear my glasses. And I know this sounds so ridiculous and so silly, and Winnie's loving the conversation here as well, but I want to talk about it because it goes into the judgments that we have on ourselves, that we put on ourselves, whether we're judging other people as judging us and we're making assumptions through our filters of how we've grown up in life, or whether it's judgments that we're having on ourselves that we put on ourselves from judging ourselves as not good enough or not them, or can't have this. And so for me, there was this really big judgment that I would have around not being seen as who I want to be seen as, who I know I am on the inside. And every time I would wear my glasses, these things right here, it would bring up judgment inside of myself. And so the title of this talk is Change Your Thinking and Change Your Life. Well, judgment is a huge piece to changing your thinking. Because if you're operating from a place of judgment and you're constantly thinking judgmental thoughts, whether it's the smallest thing on judging that person for the way they're dressing, the way that they're speaking, or you're judging on much grander things, let's go into self, whether you're judging the way your breasts look in the mirror, or you're judging the way you look with glasses, or you're judging the way that your body looks in the mirror, you're judging whether or not your arms are as tight and as toned as you want them to be, or you're judging your hair. I used to judge the shit out of my hair. Used to judge it so much that it wasn't long enough, it wasn't silky enough, it wasn't as pretty enough, right? So all of these judgments build. And what I find is when we allow the judgments to take over, and when we enroll ourselves into the belief systems that the judgment starts to enroll us in, then we start to believe that these judgments are true. We create filters, and then we start to see ourselves through these lens of judgment. Not only are we seeing ourselves and the world through the eyes of judgment, what's going on now is we're changing our entire experience, and we're now experiencing our life through that same lens and filter of judgment. So, how does that all work? Well, let's take a look at that for breaking it down. If I'm going into this place of my hair, and I'm thinking like, oh my God, I have the worst, most dry, most brittle hair, and I'm constantly focusing on that, and I'm constantly seeing that, which I did for, I would say, 10 years. I dyed my hair, I went blonde, I went brunette, I went back and forth, and it was so dry and it was so brittle. And I'm talking about this just on more of a surface layer because it's something that's relatable, and we can take it from more of a practical understanding to the more far greater judgments that we have on ourselves from the ego place that prevent us from being in a soul level place of loving. So let's go into that example. If I'm constantly focusing on my hair as dry or brittle and not long enough and not pretty enough, and I see that every time I look in the mirror, what am I doing? I'm seeding that into my consciousness. I'm then casting a spell on myself that keeps me stuck in that story and in that cycle that my hair is dry, brittle, unhealthy, not beautiful, not long enough, not good enough, whatever you want to call it. I'm stuck in that loop and that cycle. So then when I go out in the world, if someone goes to touch my hair, immediately I'm thinking about that. Immediately that emotion that I've associated with that thought comes forward in my experience. No matter if I'm lounging out and cuddling or having a great time, or if I'm on a date, or if I'm with someone and they go in to touch my hair, immediately the emotional response that moves through my body in a deep visceral experience triggers a negative emotion, which goes into not enough, they're noticing my hair is dry, all the judgments that I have on myself. I then go into projection and project that this person who's having an experience with my hair is thinking all the same things that I'm thinking about myself. And then suddenly that pulls me out of my pleasurable experience because I'm not only judging myself, I'm judging that the other person is judging me for the judgments that I have on myself through my negative projection. Then I can communicate with that person, oh, my hair is dry, oh, my hair is brittle. That person may have no idea that my hair is dry or brittle. Therefore, I'm now changing their experience and projecting my own filter, enrolling them into what my negative judgments are on myself. And then not only that, I'm changing my own pleasurable experience into negativity because now the whole thing has come around my negative projection and my judgments. So from that aspect, and if you guys are here joining me, I'm talking about how to change your thinking in order to change your life. And I'm focusing on judgments today. So if you're here and you like what I'm talking about, push the likes, push the hearts, let me know you're loving this and you're appreciating this. And that gives me more energy to give back to each and every one of you who are out here. And so just going into that, what if, and I want to pose a question, what if we were experimenting? What if we were able to shift our thoughts, even for just a week, into loving? What if we could use this experiment in this school that's called Earth School, and we were able to just experiment like we were in high school, like a biology class, and if we mix this chemical and this substance together, what would we get? So what if we mixed in a different ingredient here? What if we mixed in now love instead of judgment? What if we practice coming from loving? Would our experience change? So loving means got to change your thoughts into loving thoughts. So it's kind of a big jump to go from judgment into loving. How can we make this shift? Well, let's start with smaller steps. I want you to think about all the things that are on the negative, all the misbeliefs or the judgments that you may have that you normally find yourself running into constantly in a day. Like let's use today, for example, as you're watching this video. I want you to think about what are some judgments that you've had about yourself today. You're not tall enough, not pretty enough, not voluptuous enough, not strong enough, your legs aren't as muscular as you want them to be, you're not as sensual as you want to be, you're tired, more tired than you want to be, anything that's coming from a place that's not loving, that you're thinking about yourself. I want you to focus on the self right now in this exercise, not about the outside world, because in my belief system, the work that we do within ourselves automatically changes your outer experience and the outside world. So if you focus working on the inside, the outside will shift and change. Right? So through spiritual psychology and through the metaphysical teachings, the inner reality creates your outer experience. So to change your outer experience into a more loving experience, it requires you to do the work on the inner reality, which is where your judgments are. So if we look at this in your day and you think about all the ways you've maybe judged yourself, I want you to take that and I want you to really sit with it. And then I want you to go on the opposite end of that polarity of the negative and into the positive. And without judgment, we're not judging here. There's a distinction between judgment and observation. And I think that's maybe actually important for me to touch on right now, which is when you judge something, you have a rule book in your thought pattern. You have a rule book that you've created, which, hi Sean, thank you for joining. You have a rule book in your mind which goes into right or wrong. So through your belief systems, you've created things are right or things are wrong. And so therefore you judge things through that filtration system, through that belief system, as right, as wrong. Whenever you go into good or bad or right or wrong, you're in a positioning of judgment. Now, when you just look at what is, right? So imagine you've got this little being of consciousness that's there observing as the witness. For those of us that meditate, you know, being in the seat of the witness, of the observer, you're able to actually practice that in your waking state of consciousness here, where you're able to practice being in the seat of the observer, of the witness, and you're able to just make an observation. So I want you to just make an observation instead of judging. Oh my God, I was judging myself so much today. I don't want you to do that. I want you to really just notice the judgments from that place of observation. And then notice what can you create on the opposite side of that polarity of the negativity to be positive. So for example, if I'm looking at, and I'm going to use the same thing, if I'm looking at my hair, I'm looking at my glasses, and I would think to myself, oh, I'm not powerful with my glasses on, I'm not pretty, I look really, really nerdy, people don't see me, right? Those are all judgments that I'm making about myself. The opposite end of that, I'll look at that and say, okay, how do I want to feel? How do I want to be seen? How do I want to think about myself when I see myself with glasses on? Even the most little thing, right? But that minor tweak, that minor shift in your consciousness and the way you feel and the way you emanate, whether love or whether you emanate judgment, can literally shift your entire experience. And so then I realized, okay, I want to see myself as powerful. I want to see myself as beautiful. I want to see myself still as sexy with my glasses on. You know, there's that whole thing with like the sexy librarian, and it's like, okay, here we go, here we go. But for so long, I didn't see myself as that. So then I'm going to focus on that. So then I have my list of things that I have judged myself on, and then I've got the polarity of the negativity, which is the positivity of the way that I want to look, the way that I want to feel. And so what you can do now is an exercise and a practice to take this now from just a concept and speaking about this in the metaphysical plane of consciousness. Well, how can we bring this down now into your everyday life, into your day for the rest of this afternoon or your day for tomorrow? So how can you take this information and now apply it? Well, the second that you catch yourself thinking that negative thought, replace it and seed it with the new positive thought about yourself. Practice. Use this as an experiment, as a game, as a science experiment. You don't have to commit to this. I'm asking for you to just play with it, maybe for a day, maybe for 3 days, maybe for a week. But you get to decide and see how that shifts your experience. If you can practice coming from more loving versus more judgment. And notice and take tally, how do people respond to you differently? How is your experience different? Are people seeing you in a different way? Are you seeing yourself in a different way? Are people experiencing you in a completely different way? You get to decide that. But it starts with the plants and the seeds that you're cultivating, that you're nurturing within your consciousness and your subconsciousness. So it's understanding that as a co-creator of your own experience, hi Naeem, as a co-creator of your own experience, you get to decide what it is you want to accept as your reality and what it is that you don't want to accept as your reality, that you can then have the opportunity to change with the universal force, which I believe is love. So the more that you're in tune with the loving energy and the more that you're in tune with the loving frequency, the more you are in alignment with all the powers that co-create this physical world reality on this earth plane, because you're tuned into the same vibrational frequency and the energy field that creates all of this. So I want to see if anyone has any questions for me. And again, if you're tuning in, give it a like, give me a little bit of hearts, send me some comments. Let's see who's on here to see if there's anything that I can answer for any of you at all. Oh, thank you, beautiful. Okay, lovely. So with that, I invite you to step into loving. I invite you to see if you can shift your thought instead of judging your coworker tomorrow or judging the person that you're talking to on the phone. What if you could even go a step further and actually see if you can look past their story, look past their ego? Could you actually see the God in that person? Could you see a living, breathing, physical body, but could you see the light of God and divinity within that person? And can you look past their body? Can you look past their story? Can you look past what they're wearing? Can you look past what they're saying to you? And can you just focus on seeing the light in that person? Even if you did that alone as a practice, that would shift your experience. And so that is my invitation to you all today. Send me a message and let me know how that shows up for you. For me, it's been really challenging. And I'm so grateful to say that I'm in a place now where I feel like I'm residing in that place of loving more consistently than I have ever in my life. And it's taken a lot of practice using this power tool, right? It's called seeing the loving essence. So instead of judging someone, can you really see the loving essence that exists inside of that person in every moment? Because it is always there. But it's up to us to decide to choose that and to tune into that. And that's an evolutionary opportunity that you have to evolve the way you interact and also to evolve the way you connect to people. Because when you're able to see the loving essence, you're able to experience the loving essence, which then in turn as a byproduct allows you to experience more intimacy. A byproduct of that vulnerability and that transparency is intimacy. So let me know if I can help you with any ways. Thank you so much for watching. Sending you all so much love. Ciao.